Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the last, but certainly not the least, session on Friday. This Friday in the third week of the 4 weeks of Devtoberfest. We're going to end this week with an absolute killer of a session. For those of you who were around earlier today, we had a brilliant session from Marius Freitag talking about TypeScript and SAP Fiori Elements, and we did look at building blocks, aka macros. So we have Simon Kern from JNS Soft. Thank you, Simon, for coming along. Simon's going to be talking basically about how to add these building blocks, these macros, to UI5 freestyle apps. I'm super excited to learn how, now that I know a little bit more about these building blocks. So Simon, welcome. I'm going to hand over to you now. Please tell us a bit about yourself and off you go.
Thank you very much, DJ. I will share my screen right away. Hello, everyone. I'm Simon. I'm a senior developer at JNS Soft. I'm also a VDI5 core contributor. And before we jump right into the session, how I show you how you can add these building blocks, these macros to the freestyle applications, I just need to give you an understanding why I did this session. And for that, we have to look, first of all, how I currently develop applications. Let's maybe start with the V2 applications. So 90% of my development are actually freestyle developments. I don't do very many Fiori Elements, pure Fiori Elements applications, just due to the fact that our customers require very special needs. But we don't, or I don't develop everything again from scratch over and over again. In V2 applications, I highly use the smart controls, so which are more or less the equivalent we know from the building blocks macros for the V4 applications. I use the smart controls like the smart table, the variant management a lot, and I really like it. But everything comes with a price. For smart controls, they are also metadata-driven, and you have to write annotations for that. And this is always my biggest pain point. I always struggle to find the right annotations for my controls. So yeah, that's everything comes with a price. Now, when we look at the V4 application development, I still do more or less 90% freestyle app development. And here again, I use highly the building blocks, macros, smart controls, however they are now called. And here again, everything comes with a price. For example, the building blocks, we cannot use them directly in freestyle V4 applications. Before we can use them, we have to integrate the flexible programming model for that. And this is exactly what I want to show you today, how you can use or integrate the flexible programming model, not only to use the building blocks, but also that you can also add Fiori Elements pages right into your freestyle application so that we get the best of the both worlds. And again, here, when we have building blocks, those are metadata driven. We have to write annotations. And here I still struggle finding the right annotations all the time. Maybe it's just only me. So now, how do I use the building blocks in an already existing V4 application? Or a better question, when I should use or add building blocks to an existing V4 application. If I have already developed a V4 applications maybe 2 years ago, I don't have to add now building blocks right away, but maybe the customer wants a new feature. I have to extend the application. Maybe this is the right time to enhance my application, to bring it up to date and add the flexible programming model. So enough with the presentation part. Let's jump into the coding. Let's maybe have a first look at our application we are seeing here. Maybe you are already familiar with the application on the right side. This is the OData V4 application you develop when you're doing the official OData V4 tutorial from the demo kit. And I think this is a perfect example for this demo here, because this application is already a little bit older. It still works fine. It still suits my use case, for example, but it is already a little bit older. And maybe now I want to make it up to date. So what do we have here? We have a custom table here with some rows. We can have a growing table. I can click here on this radio button and we get a, let's say, object page or detail page like view here. It's actually not a detail page. We see we don't have any routing here yet, but that's how this application currently is working. On the left side, we see this application and we can have a quick look here. We also see that this has a coded mock server in it. It's currently not using the mock server the official mock server from the Fiori Elements guys. So yeah, we see that here. We have a lot of coding here, not only XML-wise, but also JavaScript-wise. And we just try to bring this now up to date and make it more or better or even reduce the coding. So let's start with making this app now ready for the flexible programming model so that we can use the building blocks. The first thing we have to do, we have to extend it not anymore from the UI component, but from the Fiori Elements app component. So this is now here SAPUI5 core app component. Maybe let's, for clarity, rename this here as well, app component. This looks good. And the second thing we have to extend a little bit different now is from our controller, we not anymore have to extend or should not extend it anymore from the MVC controller, but actually also from the Fiori Elements core. From the SAPUI5 core page controller. And let's also, for clarity, rename this here as well and save it. Okay, first thing's done. Now let's jump to the manifest JSON. And what I have already told you is that we currently don't have any routing here yet. But for the flexible programming model, we need some routing. And the Fiori Elements framework we are injecting is relying on that and handles the root view and so on itself. So first of all, we have to remove the root view from here because Fiori Elements is handling this for us then. And then we have to add the routing here. I just prepared a little snippet and then we can go through this. So first things first, this looks pretty basic. We have a default main route, we call it main page, and we have one target main page. And now very important is here that when we inject or when we use the flexible programming model, every page, every target more or less is a different component. So we don't have here now an XML view, we have a different component, main page, and we define the flexible programming model here. Then what we already know, or what is more or less similar, is the path where my view relies, and we directly add or bind an entity set to that view. And currently the entity set that is called here is people. That's just the list we were using. Now, one more thing we have to do, we have to add additional libraries now. When we look at the UI5 YAML for now, there are already a few libraries and we have to add 2 more actually. So the SAPUI macros and the SAPUI templates for now. We can save that. And this is hopefully it. First of all, to enable the flexible programming model. I'm just restarting the server that the new libraries are loaded. When we now have a look at the application again, hopefully nothing has changed, but it will still load. Exactly. So we are now bootstrapping from the Fiori Elements framework with the flexible programming model, but the application itself just looks the same, behaves exactly the same. We can still click on this radio button and get this detail view. Now, a very important thing I want to show you before we move on is what are the consequences out of that. So the application itself still behaves the same. What I'm what I want to show you is the dev tools and especially the network trace. I'm not sure if you see this correctly. I hope you see this. We have now 1,100 requests. That's a lot. Before we did this migration, we only had half of that, around 500 requests. So only because we just changed these few lines, injected the Fiori Elements framework, we doubled the size of the request. And I think this is something you have to keep in mind because this will reduce the performance also while you develop the application. I'm on a fast computer. I have a fast machine. For me, it's not so important, but maybe for other people, this could really slow them down while they work. So keep that in mind. It doubles the size of the requests. What I personally do, maybe to reduce this a little bit. So the first thing could be you are just bootstrapping from the external CDN where you get all the preloaded files. But I'm a person, I like to have everything locally, that also my UI5 sources are loaded locally. And for that, there's a really cool new middleware. Peter Müssig showed me that, the so-called middleware serve framework. And what this more or less does is it builds all the libraries, resources we are loading. It builds it so that we can also locally serve the preloaded libraries. And I can show you that. So for that, we have to add another library. It's called npmi UI5. So npmi, of course, UI5 middleware serve framework. We can install that. Up to date, I have already installed it, and now we can add this new or additional middleware. Let's do always the formatting in YAML. So we have added this custom middleware, and now we just have to run the server again. And for me, it's now pretty fast. When you do this the first time, it will take a couple of minutes because it will look at the current version. We are looking at 118, and then it will build every library locally. Depending on your machine power, this can take several minutes. I already did that, so I don't have to do this anymore. Now, if we look at the network trace again, when we reload the application, it's already a little bit less because it loaded the preload things. It's not the perfect solution, but maybe it helps some of you folks. Okay, now we have made this application flexible programming model ready. So now we can use the building blocks. And for example, right now, maybe I want to replace our custom developed table and our custom developed so detail-like object page with building blocks and maybe also a full-blown Fiori Elements object page layout. How can we do that now? For that, there is a building block called table, it's like the smart table. And for that, I would first remove a lot of coding we have already done or was already developed. And not only a lot of coding for the controller, for example, I will be very drastically and remove everything. So we just have an empty controller. We can actually remove this one as well, so it looks more nicely. I have removed here everything now. In the view, what I do is I remove everything under page. So let's go down here. That's a lot of coding. We can remove everything, yes. And now what I'm gonna do, I'm just adding a few more lines or just 2 more lines. Here we have now the macros table. Of course, we have to include this here as well as a namespace, macros. This is from SAPUI5 macros. We are defining the meta path to the line items. I'm giving it an ID. And because we have defined that our app view in the manifest JSON is bound to the people entity set, it directly knows where it has to look for the annotations. Of course, I have prepared the annotations for this table before this demo. So it's already in the metadata XML. Now, let's have a look. We have removed a lot of coding and I've just added one control here. Let's reload the application. And ta-da, we have still a table and actually a working table. I can search here. Okay, not yet I can search here. I will show you that in a minute. But out of nothing, we have a table. Maybe we can also make this bigger so we get more rows. These are the rows I have defined in the annotations, and it is working. So what I want to show you is that this sorting is currently not working. Why is it not working? This is not because of the control itself. This is not because I made some bugs in the coding. This is actually because we are still using this self-constructed mock server here. And that's why we are now migrating also to the mock server OData v4 from the Fiori Elements guys to see that everything is really working. So we have to add one more dependency, the UX UI5 middleware mock server, and we add another middleware, the middleware for this mock server. And we are just saying here, okay, let's intercept more or less everything. This is actually not correct. Never mind, let's see if it's working. I don't think so. And then we are referencing like we did it here in to the local service, to the mock data, to the metadata path. Now, what we have to do as well is that we are not starting directly from the init mock server anymore. So we, like we do it here in the index HTML, we are referencing the init mock server. We don't have to do that anymore. We are directly calling component support. This should be familiar for you. So now let me quickly fix the issue with my path, because this is my path I want to intercept and not the SAPUI5 data. Let's see if this is working. Okay, it's running in watch mode. This looks good. Let's reload the application. Okay, and it is not working because, and this is another thing we have to keep in mind, we are using the flexible programming model, and also there are the flexibility services we want to use. And we have to add this to the index HTML as well. Like here, the flexibility services, and right now we're saying, okay, we want to store what we do customly in our local storage. This is just the line here. Let's see if it is now working. Unfortunately not, because my metadata is not correct. Okay, sorry for that. Right now, I'm not sure what the problem is. Never mind, we can move on. So when we integrate the new mock server, everything here, ascending, descending, searching, and so on, works out of the box. I'm just reverting this for the sake of this demo, that the rest of it will work fine also with the old mock server. So let's go quickly back. And we are here again. So we have already included the one building block, the table. And we have removed a lot of coding. So this is really helpful. And these are also stable controls. They are also more or less updated from time to time from the Fiori Elements team. really cool. Now, one thing that is still missing here in this application is my object page. I have removed that now completely. And we can add this here as well in the manifest JSON just via adding an additional route here and an additional target in the manifest JSON. So I'm just telling here now, okay, we want a new route from the people. Key means we are using the primary key of our entity set. And of course, we want to accept additional query parameters. Then we name our target detail page. And now we can add this target here as well. And I have prepared that for you as well. Let's format that right. And it's a new component, detail page. And now we are not anymore here from the core flexible programming model. We are telling here now from the Fiori Elements templates, I want to use the object page floor plan here. And I'm just telling it here again, okay, please bind the entity set people to that. We still want the entity set people bound to that. Now, what is missing? We have to add the real navigation here. And this is from the people entity set. Then this is just a convention, a detail navigation to my route. And my route is, we told it, detail page. This is it. We have just defined another route, another target. And let's see if we can now reload the application. We see we now get a navigation here and we can click on it and ta-da, we have a real navigation. We see also in our URL parameter, I hope this is big for you, that we navigated to people with the correct key of my entity set. And now this is a default name. And we see it's still in the standard layout. I can navigate back. I can click on something different and it navigated with the correct key again. So we are now at the point more or less, not completely, yes, that we replaced a lot of coding and we have more or less the whole functionality we had before, just via stripping down or adjusting a few things, adding the flexible programming model to it, and that's it. From that point now on, of course, we have to extend our object page. And here I highly recommend you to use the Fiori tools for that, because this can help you, like me, when I struggle finding the right annotations, that it will more or less guide you just by clicking a few things together to rebuild this object page how you like it or how it was. Also via just one click, you can make this application now to a flexible column layout, not like here in the standard layout where we navigate from one page to another. Just via one click, the Fiori tools can help you making this application to a flexible column layout. Okay. So we have seen how we can add the building blocks. We can also now add multiple building blocks. We could now add here also a filter bar on top of that, or with a variant management. And everything is more or less just metadata driven. We don't have to code much anymore, but we still have a lot of flexibility. One thing, please, you have to keep in mind is that the requests just increase 2 times. This is one of my biggest pain points here. That's what I want to point out. Okay. Let's go back to the presentation to wrap some things up and also give you or tell you my wishes for that. And to wrap things up is that the flexible programming model really combines the best of the both worlds. We can start with a freestyle application and later on add an Fiori Elements object page on top of that. Or we could start with a Fiori Elements list report and then navigate to a custom page. This is really, really cool. But I encourage you to only integrate the flexible programming model in already existing apps and already apps that you already developed and are productively running when needed, when you need to extend them, when you keep them up to date. Because again, there are some downsides to that. And Fiori Tools is a really lifesaver finding the right annotations. So if you struggle like me with finding right annotations, use the Fiori tools, use the guided development with the page view and so on. And one more thing I can really highlight for you is there's a code jam out there. Shout out to Nico Schönteich for that, where you can really try that out yourself with an already existing OData v4 application, where you can then first of all, add the flexible programming model, extend the app with building blocks, extend the app then with the help of the Fiori tools. So check that out. It's really cool. And two of my wishes are that to the SAP guys now, please reduce this network overhead only when I integrate the flexible programming model. Doubling the network request only because I changed 2 lines of code more or less is just too much. And what I really, really would like, I'm not sure if this is possible, is that we can use the building blocks, the macros, without the flexible programming model, like we had it within the V2 world with the smart controls, where I don't have to add another framework to my application. That would be really cool. I know the building blocks extending the SAPUI MDC library, but also with the SAPUI MDC library, I have to do some things on top that I don't have to integrate a flexible programming model. So my wrap up, my 2 wishes, maybe they come true, maybe not. And that's it with my presentation already. Thank you for being here. These are my contact information if you have some additional questions and so on. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Simon. That was awesome. You know what? It's so great to see a session like this that has a little bit of everything. You know, bringing 2 hitherto disparate worlds together, freestyle and floor plan manager and Fiori tools and Fiori elements. You know, we can all benefit from, you know, taking a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and, you know, for a developer centric and eventually a user centric solution. And also, more sessions like this, I think, should end with a wish list. I think that was great. I think that's absolutely great. So superb session, superb feedback. We had a couple of questions. In fact, Marian Zeiss was asking some questions. I think, Marian, you've used up your question quota right now, but I'm just kidding. But we've had the inimitable Volker Buzek in the chat already. So Simon, I don't think there are any questions for you to answer. There's some conversation going on right now. So Radesh is asking for the CodeJam URL. Radesh, I've just put in the general CodeJam URL to go to the CodeJam group on SAP Community. You can find out more there. And in that CodeJam group, you can see lots of information about which CodeJams are available, etc., etc. We've got lots of people saying thank you and everything. And yeah, so I'm going to say thanks as well. I've just updated literally this a second ago, the validation tutorial. I'm going to push that update to GitHub. So within the next 5 or 10 minutes, you'll be able to go to the tutorial, answer the question, which was on when Simon was editing the manifest.json file. And yeah, so it just remains for me to thank once again you all for joining and interacting in the chat and watching and everything. Special thanks to Simon at JNSsoft for this brilliant session. And I wish you all a great weekend. Last word to you, Simon.
Thank you all. I hope you see a lot more sessions next week, cool sessions next week, and see each other in the discussions.
Bye, folks. Bye from me.
Bye.